Hey, this is John Lee Dumas of Entrepreneur on Fire. And when I'm not interviewing inspiring entrepreneurs, I'm listening to Stephanie O'Brien on the Moved by Purpose podcast.
That's why we have to have faith, is you have to keep taking those actions without having 100% guarantee what's going to happen or not. But you just have to follow that pulling that God kind of puts in your heart. That's what I've learned to do. And it's not easy.
Are you longing to know what your purpose is? Are you on the wrong career path? Do you feel like there must be more to life? Don't worry, there's hope. It's time to be moved by purpose. Now your host, Stephanie O'Brien.
You are listening to Moved by Purpose with your host, Stephanie O'Brien. And today I am excited to announce our guest, Mark Menard, who is the owner and founder of Dreamshine, which proudly serves individuals with special needs. Mark is the author of The Story of You, Transforming Adversity into Adventure, Taking Your Dreams to the Next Level and Beyond. This releases November and will be in bookstores in June of 2016. He's also the co-host of Elevating Beyond podcast. He is a husband and father of 5. His hardest and most rewarding job of all. And without further delay, welcome him to the show. Welcome to the show, Mark. It is such an honor to have you on today.
Thank you, Stephanie. Thank you so much. It's an honor to be on.
Now, this is our second attempt to do this because we had recorded such an awesome episode before, and due to technical glitches, we had to re-record. But that happened, so thank you so much for being patient and understanding with that process. And I'm happy that we can actually get to... Well, I know you pretty decently, but the listeners get to know you. So the first question I ask every guest is, why did you start your business, or what kind of things led up to you starting Dreamshine?
Okay, sure. And yeah, it's great to be on again and to be talking to you again, Stephanie. So it's a pleasure to be sharing the story with the audience. Yeah, Dreamshine basically is the company I have that serves individuals with special needs. And really, you know, what led me to start it was after I had moved out to Ohio from college, my degree in BS in psychology, I really had no idea what I was going to do after college. I know that might be a shock because everyone always knows what they're going to do when they graduate, right? I was doing TIA with my brother, actually, just doing labor for him and kind of thinking of going back to grad school. And during that time, my niece, their daughter has autism, was diagnosed with it, and just continued to kind of have some interest in that. She's come a really long way over the years, but one of their friends actually offered me a job working with individuals with special needs because they knew my background was in psychology. And I was like, well, that actually sounds pretty cool. So took the job, and at that point in time, it was all the county and state-owned programs. And I loved working with individuals with special needs, but what I didn't love was the atmosphere. It was like these kind of really institutionalized looking buildings that were like giant warehouses with fluorescent lights, and the individuals with special needs just weren't really given any options. Like they could put machine parts together, or they were given pieces of papers and crayons and told to just color all day. And this was like after the age of high school, you know, like once they were adults, like this was really their only option. And as much as I loved working with the individuals, it still like broke my heart to just think of even my niece, like at that age, that being her only choice. And I just continued to get into the field more. I actually worked in group homes, managed group homes, and worked on the administrative level, and then got into teaching special education at the high school level. And when it went for our students to graduate, kind of brought us back to square one, where we started touring what they were called at the times the different workshops that they would be able to go to after high school. And it was just back to those big institutionalized, horrible buildings. And I was like, there's just no way out of our 20-something students, like maybe 2 of them will do well here, but the rest are just going to be so miserable. And I was just thinking, we all have options, at least when we graduate from high school, or we can choose to drop out or whatever, might choose to go to college, choose to work at McDonald's, choose to stay on your parents' couch, but at least we have choices. These individuals really didn't have options. Most of them can't be left home alone without some type of care, and their parents needed to go to work, so the only options they really had was to take them to these workshops after high school. And that's kind of what started inspiring me to create Dreamshine. And just to kind of flash forward a little bit, we started it, spent a long time getting the funding and everything set up, and went through a lot of politics. I was age 26 at that time. My brother bought this old rundown campground, and our office literally started out in their storage shed. I was like running extension cords to their storage shed. We had a fax machine at that time. I think they were scanning stuff back then, maybe. And we started, my sister moved out, and I just really told her about the vision and dream I had of creating an atmosphere that wasn't institutionalized and had all these different options for individuals with special needs. And we were getting ready to open, and I got a phone call from a lady that works next to the governor. I always say I don't mention her name, but she made it really clear to me her position and that she worked next to the governor, and told me why we should not open Dreamshine. And at first I was like, is this serious? And how did you get my number? And like, why are you calling me? And is this the mafia? And she said she was just trying to, quote, help me, because they had been doing it this way for 40 some odd years in the state of Ohio. And that's the way it's always going to be. And they don't want these new, quote, private programs, they call it, coming in. And it's going to be pretty much impossible, is what she told me. And I just said, thank you for calling. Don't ever call me again. And, it was a little intimidating, but that just fueled me even more to know there was more of a need to do something like this, because we had been like photocopying brochures. Like, we didn't even have a software program. We were just mailing them out to people. And if they were already threatened by just seeing those like pamphlets we were making of the program we were doing, it really goes to show you that there was no options out there at all, and how hard, for whatever reasons, wanted to stop them. So it took just continuing to study all the state rules and laws, and that wasn't the funnest part, but was really necessary. And we actually fought a lot of politics and got our first client in about a month later. And it was really cool. Like, over the span of the summer, by the end of the summer, we had 8 individuals enrolled, and hired 2 team members, so had our first 2 employees, and was able to let the school know I wasn't coming back. It was kind of bittersweet because we had a good relationship, but they were happy about what I was doing. And we flash forward about 9 years later, and now we have a 2.5-acre campus area with this awesome log home and waterfront lodge. It's all adapted and handicapped accessible, and we have a pond with fishing. Everyone can fish, and we do like sports therapy. We have a job skills program. We make candles. We have massage therapists, just animal therapy. We do so many different cool things. And that's what the dream always was, versus being this institutionalized type setting. Now they get to come hang out at what almost looks like a resort type area. So
it is beautiful. I looked at the pictures. And with my background in social work, I know exactly what you're talking about. Having a warehouse type setting, and the options that you provide for them with such a beautiful atmosphere is honestly, maybe something like that exists here in Michigan, but I haven't seen it. And I think it's so great that you saw that and you went after it. You sent me your book, The Story of You, and I flipped through, I think, just even the middle part of it, and the part I read was exactly what I needed to read that day and that moment. And you said a number of things that I took some notes on. And in your book, you talk about, and even that lady threatening you, the resistance and the adversity that you had to go through, and you dive deeper into some of those things even more so in your book.
Yeah.
I think that there are people that will take resistance and adversity, especially when they are pushing through, and they fall back, or it appears that they're making progress, to only start back all the way from the beginning or whatever. And I know you wrote about that in your book, and that's what I read. I was like, okay, I needed this because I was really discouraged. And
awesome. Not that you were discouraged, but that it helped you.
Right. No, that your own journey and you writing about the journey and you going through the hard process of writing a book, which is in and of itself a huge project.
I share that in there too, because it really coincides with whatever anyone is doing when they step out of their comfort zone into that uncharted territory. And you get to a point, you know, with your journey, a lot of times it's just you at the end of the day. I have God at the foundation that I talk about in there a lot, and I have some little stick figure drawings I think you might have seen too in there that
I did
help. That's as great as I get at that, but
Mr. Solid and Mr. Mediocrity,
it kind of helps like paint a picture. You know, your favorite word, mindset, is what I really try to share is the mindset that I went through as I was going through these different 1,000-mile journeys, because everyone is gonna go in their own way. And I don't try to say like this is a 7 steps to success or something like that, because I don't think it exists. But I do think, you know, a lot of people say like success leaves clues and so does failure. And really sharing stories to understand that like you really do have to learn along the way. And you are going to feel like usually when you're so close to getting there, whatever the goal is you're trying to accomplish, towards the end, you can feel like you're starting all the way over, and you don't realize that you've actually come so far, and the person that has got to where you are now is not even the same person that started the journey. So even if you are starting over at an earlier, even if you feel like you're on the 1,000-mile journey and you get to mile 800 and something happens like the funding gets shut down or another roadblock comes and you feel like you're back at the 200-mile marker, you might be in terms of like looking at the circumstances around, but you're really not in terms of the person who you become, because the person you become is the one that got to that 800th mile and has so much more knowledge and experience and really courage to look back and see like, wow, I got through this, I can get through this. And that's what you have to just keep focusing on day in and day out till you get there. Usually you're so close to the finish line and you just can't see it. Like it's right in front of you sometimes. And it can get foggy at the top of the mountain, you know, the peak. It's the highest part. And you can,
the air is thin.
Yeah. You can't
You're tired.
And you can think like, oh my gosh, there's another, and maybe you just have like 10 more steps to go. But the thing is just, like, I know it can sound cheesy, but really just don't give up, and you will eventually get there.
Yeah, and I have to say, okay, because I could relate, because you talked about the funding, getting funding for your dream, and I was like, oh, I'm so glad I'm not alone, because I thought there was something wrong. I was like, am I cursed? Because I'm like, all right, God, this is your plan for my life.
Yeah.
like you told me this is your plan. This is my purpose, unless I heard that wrong. And I started thinking, did I completely miss something? Because I set out and I'm like, why is this so hard? Yeah. Oh my goodness. Like, why is it that these people say that, yeah, yes, totally, I'm all in. And then it's like they disappear, or no, just like you with the funding, like, yeah, we're totally supportive and interested. And then like you got rejection after rejection. Yeah. And I'm like, oh my gosh. Okay. So his journey looks completely different.
Sure.
I mean, a totally different business or whatever, but you know, the things of, you get a little bit of hope, and then it's like a door slams in your face.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
That's the thing is exactly like it's my experiences, but anyone, it relates to the mindset of it all. And with the funding of that building, that's the waterfront lodge we have now. And we wanted to create something that could help more individuals in wheelchairs because we didn't have the space for it in the current building we had. And God did put that in my heart, and I like envisioned it in my head, had it on a board, had it ready, started meeting with bankers, and all of them were like, oh, you guys have the perfect business structure. You've been in, and we had been in business for like 6 years at that point. So like, you made it over the 5-year mark. Everything looks great on paper. So we had a whole meeting. We got all the families involved because we had individuals wanting to come to Dreamshine that were in the bigger wheelchairs that we just didn't have the space for them. And it was so like heartbreaking to have them come all excited and just be like, we don't have a building for that yet, you know? And that's where we started saying, all right, we're going to do this. And we had a meeting. The banker said it was going to go through. We met with all the families. We had a start date. We had like a little celebration. And after like 4 months, one of the banks was like, everything was fine. Then all of a sudden, they just called and said, we can't go through with this anymore, and didn't really give any reason as to why. So we didn't know what to fix. So then we went through it with another bank for like 3.5 more months of just monotonous, giving them everything. I mean, I think they were even asking for blood at some point. And
doesn't surprise me.
yeah, and same thing with them. It was all great. Then, nope, we're not going to go through with it. And we had the builder lined up, and so that's the point there where I was, Stephanie, like talking to God, like, God, you put this in my heart, you know, like what's going on? And, you know, I kind of talk about it in the book. Like I went for a jog to clear my head and was like, is there something else I should be doing? And he just kind of whispered in my gut that feeling, just telling me, no, like you're going to get this building. You're going to keep moving forward and tell the families you're going to have it by fall. So we let them know that we were, even though the other bank turned us down. I mean, talk about, you know, we had to come up with a temporary plan. We got like a modular building put in as we were waiting to get the funding for the other one. And as we just kept taking action, God kept giving other ideas, like even different ways to come up with funding that actually didn't involve a bank. And by the end of it, it all tied together and came out better than the building we were originally trying to design from the bank. And the coolest thing about it is we were told by then some people, like, literally it's going to be impossible. You need to just give up. A lot of times it was my own voice, inner critic telling me that. And we got it up and done, and one of the banks called me back that put us through like 4 months of hell, basically, and was like, I'm just checking back in with you for the new year to see if there's anything we can help you with. Are you still looking for that new building? I'm like, oh, no, we got it. They're like, how did you get a loan for that? Who? Oh, I got it on my own. He's like, can we help you with anything else? I'm like, nope. So I was able to turn the bank down. I was like, yes.
Yes. That's awesome. And you said quite a few things. And I want to ask a question. First of all, you said when you were kept taking action. So you went on this jog. You're talking to God, really discouraged. I've been there. I'm sure the listeners have all been there too.
Sure.
And because I think in your book you said like it was like 2 weeks or something before you said to the families you would have a building or have the funding or something like that. Wasn't it a close?
Yeah.
Okay.
It was like a month. So we temporarily got one of those modular buildings, like you see a school when they're getting another class, when they're building a new building and they have like those temporary ones. And
okay, yes.
Yeah, we had that here, and that wasn't the look we wanted, but we were able to explain it was temporary, but at that point we had still been turned down by the banks. And I mean, I'm looking at all these individuals, the families in wheelchairs, and they're all counting on us, you know. And so I just told them what God put in my heart. I'm like, we are going to have this by November. And at that point in time, it was like nearing the beginning of August, I think, maybe the middle. And I wasn't like lying to them. I was really telling them what God put in my heart. I probably, you know, like Noah's Ark.
You believed it.
I'm
yeah, you took him at his word.
And the thing is, like, we did have the building, give or take like a week or so, by November. And the families never knew what we had to go through to get there. They just knew, here it is. Wow, we had our grand opening ceremony. All the individuals were able to come. And now I can look back on it and connect all the dots of how God did it and literally how it turned out better than the way I was trying to do it. You know, I was like pounding my fist like, why aren't these banks going through? And God's like, well, I have a plan that I'm going to get you this other builder that's going to do a bigger building for half the cost, and you'll have half the loans. And that was how it all turned out in the end, you know. But I just think everyone is going to go through these situations to manifest any dream, or through their marriages, through as parents, just anything in life. And it's just like, that's why we have to have faith, is you have to keep taking those actions without having 100% guarantee what's going to happen or not. But you just have to follow that pulling that God kind of puts in your heart. That's what I've learned to do. And it's not easy.
No. So it comes down to, I'm just like, okay, because I'm fresh in my own discouragement, and I could talk to you off official recording. Sorry, listeners, I'll tell you the story later. But and okay, so I totally get the anger, the frustration, you're crying out to God. And was it hard for you when he said you'll still have this building by November? I'm just curious.
It was.
With all the discouragement that you face and all the hard work you put in, because this, I think, is a really big breakthrough point for people that are in this spot, which
it is.
You have trusted him and things were not working out the way you wanted them to. And he's telling you, trust me and say this. Would you feel like, I imagine you felt pretty stretched already.
I did. And the thing is, like, one part of me wanted to hear the answer, like, no, this isn't what I've been telling you to do the whole time, you know?
Right, because that would make sense.
Yeah, but
at least you would.
Yeah. But then another part of me didn't want to
then.
hear that too, because it's like, what? Mm-hmm. Like, I'm going to have to give, and that honestly wouldn't have made sense to me if I imagined the why and all the people it was going to help and serve. I just couldn't imagine.
That's true.
You know what I mean? But I kind of was hoping, like, okay, cool, that would explain there's not anyone that hasn't seen what we've gone through that couldn't say we didn't do everything we possibly could on human terms, you know. But it was like as clear as day, like a voice didn't like speak out of the sky or whatever, but I could hear it in my, just, you know how that is, you can just feel it. And it was just like, no, you can't give up on this, because this isn't your building, it's mine.
Key. That's key.
Yeah.
It's if God gives you a dream, it's his dream for you, not your dream. There's that scripture that God gives you the desires of your heart, which can be interpreted both ways. I think either way is correct, which is he gives you the desire in the first place, so it becomes your desire. And then because it's his desire for you in your life, he grants it. So those desires you will see.
Absolutely.
It's just...
I think people get confused at the whole faith and praying part and then just waiting for it to fall in their hand and not realizing that God's like, you're going to have to keep taking action and work your butt off for this to manifest. But I am confirming that this is going to happen because this is my plan and not yours. I've asked you to do it. And he made that really clear. And so, like, it actually gave me, like, a feeling of peace, Stephanie, somewhat, to know, okay, like, it's in his hands, even though I'm going to have to keep taking action, and I have no idea. I was like, God, throw me a bone here? Like,
is this the right action?
Yeah, since you want me to do it, like, can you just give me a little bit of the how? But
yeah, exactly. Is this right? I'm just going to call these people. Hope it works.
And when I can step back now and look at it, I can see he was giving me a lot of the hows by different people he brought in. One person suggested how to change the blueprints and the design. So he was giving me those little cues here and there. I just, at the time, wasn't seeing them for the way I wanted to see them.
Oh,
And
key.
yeah,
The key point.
I mean, that's why, like, I wish I could say it's follow A, B, C, and D, and you'll get there. But the good news is, though, I mean, I have seen the impossible happen so many times throughout my life and through others' lives, and their stories are all in their own way similar to what I went through, similar to what you're going through, similar to what your listeners are going through. And it's like you really get to that point where you can turn around and kind of go back to the land of mediocrity, which I have that little stick figure drawing,
Yeah.
or you can keep going. And you hear those statements a lot, like, you know, there's not a lot of people found in the extra mile, or when your tank's on empty, keep going. And you can think like, oh, that's just a motivational. But the more I think about it, like, that's really true. Like, I was on empty. And
Yep.
when a
Oh,
lot
goodness, yes.
and you are, you know, and that's where logically a lot of people can give up. And if honestly, if it was easy, everyone would do it. And if you can just keep going, like sometimes it's just a few more steps, and then just a few more, and then just a few more,
Yeah.
and you will get there. But you just have, sometimes it's like one day, one step at a time. But if you just sit there and dwell on it, that's the worst thing, because then you just become paralyzed. Just keep going one day, one step at a time. And really anyone can do what God puts in their heart. I believe that 100%.
Yes. And the key is to keep going. You said it, like, sometimes you are empty. And how on earth do you keep going when you're empty?
Yeah.
And I have a very healthy, supportive group of women that encourage me. And I will send them a group text when I'm empty. And I'm like, I'm doing the alligator crawl, guys. I'm like, but I'm keep going.
That's
you know,
right.
But if you want to pray for me to get up on my feet, or at least get up off my belly so I can crawl, like,
Yeah.
But I'm going. Just pray for me to keep going.
It's true. I mean, you do. And having those people really helps too. Some of those key people that can help if you're, sometimes they can help put you in check if you're getting off your principles or something, but then still at the end of the day, like, you still have to somehow have that conversation relationship with God too. At the end of the day, it's going to be on you to keep going.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like, but I'm definitely all for I always surround myself with like-minded people, but some of them still aren't going to understand 100% what God puts in your heart.
Right. And some of them will, as this is kind of a tough one to discern as well, because there comes time where even your wise counsel starts contradicting what God put in your heart.
Yes.
And they're not trying to take your dream away at all, but they see, I don't know how to explain it, but like they just start operating in what they think is wisdom.
Sure.
Which is, if you haven't gotten the funding, maybe it's not meant to be kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Or maybe it's time to close the door and you gave it your all.
Yeah.
So I think it's time to just move on and, let this be a mystery and let God unfold it later. I mean, I've had people speak that into my life, and I'm like, and that's kind of where you're really, really vulnerable.
Yes.
At this time too, because you're so discouraged, you're so exhausted, you believe God spoke to you, but then you're also kind of second guessing it because you're like, wait a minute, I don't know, because this didn't come out the way I wanted it to. But you said something that was so key, which you said, now you can look back and see that God's plan was better than your way and even your timing. And that is the position of trust you've got to be in, which is, do you trust that you heard him and that he's guiding you? Even if this isn't coming to fruition the way you wanted it to, because how you saw it coming to pass isn't coming to pass. But let him make it come to pass in his way. So,
Amen. I mean, I could do a whole other show. I know we don't have time, but I didn't, honestly, had all these events not happen, I wouldn't have had a book to write about either. And God is at the foundation. I don't preach down people's throats, it's for anyone that's going through anything, but God is at the foundation of my story and my book. And I look at that now too, and I'm like, wow, like I'm able to explain how God was in all this through how it led to a book, which at that time I wasn't thinking, well, this will make a great book, as I'm like crawling through the mud and the grime, and you know what I mean? Like,
This is
like
not
I
a glamorous
can't go
story.
one more slither through the sludge. Like, oh, I can't wait to write about this one day.
Right?
But now when I look back at it, and sometimes, Stephanie, it's still surreal to even have this book, but I've been reading through some of my own stuff with some things I'm going through now, and it like punches me in the face like, wait, Mark, you need to reapply what you're telling everyone else to do, because you're not doing it right now in your own life like you were doing it before. I mean, it's an ongoing daily battle, and I think that's important for people to know too, that it's okay that you feel that fear and that doubt, and maybe some days are better than others, but ultimately just keep going one day, one step at a time.
Yep. Yes. Well, I could keep talking with you, Mark, but get the book, The Story of You. I will put the link in the show notes. Is it on sale now?
It is, yeah. If you put the link, you can purchase it through the link, and then the ebook is up on, gosh, I think it just showed up on Amazon. And then it's kind of weird. It's going to be in the bookstores and everything officially in June. But you can order it now through the link that I have set up, and the ebook can be ordered now too.
Yeah. Very encouraging. I didn't read the whole thing, but the little bit I read was very, very encouraging. So I know the whole thing. I'll probably devour it by the end of the week. So
awesome.
I highly suggest you get that. And how else can they connect with you, Mark?
Sure. The page we made for the book is just my name. It's just Mark, M-A-R-K, Menard, M-I-N-A-R-D.net. And that actually has like the Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, I think, all that fun stuff on there. And then I'm really active on Twitter too, just at Dreamshine, D-R-E-A-M-S-H-I-N-E, and the number 4. And I'm really happy to always engage with people and stuff after these shows, and if they're going through something, like I always try my hardest to, I might not immediately, but usually within 24 hours, I try to at least reply to everyone, because I've been there, and we all are. So, and I know what it's like to reach out to people and not have them respond and stuff, so I really try my best whenever I can.
That's awesome. Thanks again, Mark. It was such a pleasure to talk to you, and I know that this was really encouraging to those listening. Especially, it was encouraging to me, but I know it will definitely encourage others.
Thank you, Stephanie. And if you can just keep going, like sometimes it's just a few more steps, and then just a few more, and then just a few more, and you will get there. But you just have, sometimes it's like one day, one step at a time.
There you have it. That was Mark Menard, author of The Story of You. Very inspirational. I really enjoyed the pieces of the book I did read so far. Very encouraging. A great story about perseverance and pushing through adversity and resistance. And anyone who has a dream that they are working hard to see become a reality, you need to read the book, The Story of You. So check it out. Make sure you check out markmenard.net to connect with him and find and order his book. If you guys have not done so already, make sure you come on over to movedbypurpose.net, where you can get the Freedom from Fear Manifesto, where you can learn how to kick fear where it hurts to stop stealing your dreams and making what you want the most become a full reality in your life. And as always, if you like this episode, take a moment of your time to subscribe, rate, and write a review. Share it with someone that you know it will benefit. Listen to it over to keep yourself encouraged. And don't be a stranger. Let me know, what was your favorite thing about it? What did you like the most? What did you learn? What point resonated with you the most? And I'll talk to you guys all next week.